the one, the only, Bencio
Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, Ideally Speaking, as we continue the 12th chapter in this book, the 10 really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make. Chapter 12 is focusing on appreciating your spouse. He starts off the chapter by talking about life in general, how we don't appreciate life in general. We don't appreciate our senses. We don't appreciate how vastly rich we are. He said, I've spoken to many audiences in many communities. I've asked this question, meaning, are you rich, countless times, and the answer invariably is no. Regardless of age or education, irrespective of the socioeconomic level, no one is rich. Comfortable, maybe. Able to make ends meet, Baruch Hashem. But rich? Come on, I'm not rich. So he says basically that in our generation, we're extremely wealthy. You go back, he says, to kings, at the time of the Revolutionary War. He says, kings of prior times didn't enjoy the luxuries that we do. Portraits of King George, monarch of England before the Revolutionary War, show him sitting on his throne in the comfort of his palace, wearing layers upon layers of robes topped off by a fur covering. He wore so many layers because it was mighty cold in the king's palace. The King of England, with all his wealth, kept warm by huddling up to a smoky fireplace that warmed only the part of his body that was facing it. His Highness had to walk through dimly lit, dank hallways at night. He had to sleep on a mattress of stuffed feathers. When his brother the Duke got married, traveling to the wedding meant enduring a back-breaking carriage ride for the better part of a week. The crown jewels couldn't buy him the luxuries that we take for granted today. The reality is that we are wealthy beyond belief. We enjoy comforts and abundance that are historically unprecedented. And it's not just the extremely affluent. The average tax-paying citizen of today lives in a comfort and luxury that previous generations couldn't dream of. Because it's important to appreciate. Hakaras HaTov, he says, means to recognize the good. We all know, we all have gratitude. We have to recognize that our health, our wealth is tremendously amazing. The sense, first of all, the senses we have, the bodies we have, the health that we have, and also the comforts, the materialistic comforts that we have. We have to be Hakaras HaTov. We have to be grateful for those things. And then he carries it over. He starts talking about marriage. He said, I once gave an intense 6-week marriage boot camp. Most of the couples who participated were married for over 10 years, and many were experiencing troubles in their marriage. Some of the issues were deeply entrenched. The sessions were highly interactive, and after a few weeks of hearing the complaints each spouse had about the other, I felt the need for some perspective. I reached out to a support group for older singles. I explained what I was looking to accomplish, and I asked them if they would be willing to share what it was like to be an older single in the frum community. A number of singles volunteered. The stories they told were heart-wrenching, never knowing where to put themselves, never fitting in, every Yom Tov a nightmare, having to rejoin family and watch everyone else's life move on while they were frozen in place. The constant questions, new, anything doing, and worst of all, what it's like to attend the wedding of a much younger sibling or niece. I was trying to show these couples the bracha they had. Human nature seems to be that even if we seek something for years, once we acquire it, we forget how precious it is. It is. I can't argue on this. This is all true. It's true when you think about it in your mind. And that truth, unfortunately, we're products, human beings are products of habituation, right? When you have something, when you get it, even that, I didn't get married until I was 35 years old. I was in Shidduchim for 10 years, more than 10 years. And when I eventually got married, I was very happy, obviously. But it wears off. You become accustomed to it. The first point I want to say is that, habituation, that's part of human nature. Unfortunately, this is the way God made the world. Hakaras HaTov is not so easy. You're Makir Tov. For example, this weekend, my son got locked in the room. We gave him a punishment. And there was a key in the door. He turned the key. We couldn't get him out of the room. I had to find a member of Hatzalah to go break the lock of the door. He can get out. He was 2 years old. He didn't know how to turn the key back. Locked himself and couldn't get out. So, I had a tremendous Hakaras HaTov to this person because, I didn't know how to break the lock. He knew how to break the lock. For next time, I guess I'll figure it out. But, I wanted to make a donation to him. I probably plan on making a significant donation to him for helping me because, it's really terrible to have a 2-year-old kid locked in a room. He was locked in a room for half an hour, Even that is too long. So, when things happen, when you're in a time of distress, something happens to you, and you get out of that distress, you're in shidduchim, something like this happens, you're extremely grateful and you want to do it. But eventually, just like anything else in life, the happiness and the gratitude wear off, and we have to go ahead and forge ahead and continue life. But it's human nature. I mean, no matter how much you can tell yourself. I remember one time, my Rebbe, Rabbi Yaakov Friedman, always said you have to focus on the good. I have an ayin tov, focus on the positive. I remember one time I was in yeshiva, they were dancing around in a circle, and I'm thinking to myself, there must have been like 20 guys there, all the guys I went to yeshiva with, and I was trying to think about one positive thing about each person. This person passed by, he's good for this, he's good for that. It helped for like about 5 seconds, and then afterwards you forget about it, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. That's the way human beings are. It's true, 100% true. We have tremendous material benefits now. Thank God most people are healthy. They have enough money to buy what they need. A lot of people are married. They have kids. All things not to be taken for granted. Not everyone is able to have kids right away. You get married, you have kids. You think it's just second nature. Some people struggle for years to have kids, just like people struggle for years to get married. Some people have problems with health. Some people have problems with family. So everything that's positive in your life is a bracha. It's just unfortunate reality is that we can't think about that. We can't appreciate it on a daily basis. But there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is to change yourself as a person, work on yourself as a person to become a better person, a better version of yourself that you are. But to consciously think that I can change, I can start thinking positive, doesn't work so easily. People think negatively. That's just the way people are. Then he brings it over to marriage, and he says, an important part of having a good marriage is to appreciate what your spouse does for you. He said, a man once said to me, my wife is just a freeloader. I work so hard and she's taking it easy. What's to appreciate? I thought this was interesting because he'd recently had a baby and he looked well rested. I said, who gets up at night with a baby? She does. I see. Who feeds the baby? I don't know what kind of question this is. She does, of course. Who changes the baby? She does. Who buys clothing for the kids every season? My wife. Who buys the food? My wife. Who cooks the food? She does. Who takes care of the house? She does. If you look at the long, long list of what a woman does for the home, you begin to realize how much of your life is organized, structured, and vastly improved because of your wife. And then he reverses it. He has a woman once said to me, my husband does nothing for me. He's a good provider, and he's responsible, and he tries to spend time with the kids. But he does nothing around the house. I take care of everything. It's like he checks in at night and checks back out in the morning. I get nothing from him. Okay, I said. So Ray Schaefer says to him, you live in a house, a very nice one, in fact, right? Yes. You drive a nice car, right? Yes. You have a bunch of kids, a number of them are learning kollel, right? Yes. Let's do the math. What do you think you pay in tuition and support for kollel? I don't know. I helped her with the math, and between supporting 2 sons-in-law and 6 kids in yeshiva, it's about $100,000 a year. That is $100,000 after taxes. You probably have to earn $130,000 before taxes just to pay those expenses. And we're not even talking about food and vacations and everything else that you need money for. There's a lot of money. Tell me, I said, what time does your husband leave the house? About 6 in the morning. What time does he come home at night? Usually around 8 or 9. He probably takes a 2-hour lunch break, right? No. He quickly gobbles a sandwich at his desk. I'm sure he takes off a couple afternoons a week to play golf. No. No, he never takes time off. I waited for a long moment and said, do you appreciate what your husband is doing for you? He's slaving away, working day and night so that you and your children should have a house, food, clothing, and a Torah education. Look around your house and see what you have. Then say the words, what my husband gives me is astonishing. But she answered, such a great line she had, but it's not the kind of husband I wanted. That's what he says. And he does acknowledge this. He says, let me be clear. I don't think that the husband is doing his job. Now, he was just proving to her that he did do his job. He worked very hard to pay for all the expenses in the house. She couldn't articulate it, but she was lonely. She felt like she didn't have a relationship. She had a big house and cars and money, but she felt like she didn't have a marriage. It's a husband's responsibility to give his wife the attention that she needs. He has to be her friend. That's his part. But regardless of what he's not doing, she still has to appreciate what he is doing for her. So, like I said, first of all, there's habituation. People look at the negative, they don't look at the positive. But these perspectives, I think, are the wrong perspectives. The woman is right over here. The woman is right. I have a relative who works hard, very hard. You know, he oftentimes sometimes come home in the middle of the night. He works really hard, but the family is pretty well off, and they're planning on purchasing. They're going to purchase a new house. It's $1 million house, $2 million house. The wife will have everything she wants, but the wife is not happy. The wife is not happy because she doesn't have a husband. She doesn't have a husband, and as the author has said many times through this book, and everyone knows this, that a woman craves love and a husband craves respect. And just because the woman does everything in the house, she takes care of the kids, she cleans the house, she cooks the food, she takes care of everything, if she's not giving respect, that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says that what's considered a bad wife? A bad wife, the Gemara says, is either two examples. She sets a table for him, she makes the food, she cooks a delicious meal, and then when they sit down to eat, she starts giving him a tongue lashing. She starts telling him all his negative qualities. He did this, he didn't do this, he's not adequate at this. Or the other example in the Gemara is that she sets a table for him, she cooks him a nice meal, and then she leaves and goes speaks on the phone, and she doesn't even sit with him. Both of these examples are a lack of respect, and a husband, more than anything, craves respect. I guarantee you, if the wife would not take care of the house adequately, the laundry would be late, the food wouldn't be on time, but she respected her husband. She didn't talk down to her husband. She treated him like a king. She asked his opinions. She followed his opinions, followed his lead. The man is leading. He wouldn't care so much. It wouldn't bother him that much, right? When he comes and complains to Ray Schaefer and he says, listen, my wife doesn't do anything for me. He's not saying that she doesn't do anything for him. He's basically giving these as excuses or pretexts why she's unhappy, why he's unhappy with her. The reason he's happy with her is because she doesn't give him respect, which 99% of women don't do. They don't give their husband respect. And it goes the other way also, right? What is this lady complaining about? She's complaining, my husband, he comes in, he checks in, checks out, he leaves at 6 in the morning, comes back at 9 o'clock at night. Yeah, he earns a lot of money. But that's not what she's complaining. Even Ray Schaefer acknowledges over here. What she's complaining about is the Gemara says that Rotze Isha Bekav Tiflis, Mitisha Kabin Oprecious. Right? A woman would rather have very little material needs met. Obviously she wants to have her basic needs met. But she's much happier having a husband who's spends time with her, physically together with her, emotionally together with her. That's much more important to her than all the wealth in the world. And when she complains that he's not around the house, that's just an excuse for the fact that he's not a husband, which the author even acknowledges over here. So, and the truth is that in marriage, if those things are met, which most oftentimes are not met, the husband gets his respect, and the wife gets her love and attention and time together with the husband. The husband doesn't have to spend so much time being around the house. Is another bonus. Even if they've made less money, right? But the problem is it's so hard. It's very hard for a woman to respect her. There's a big Yetzer Hara, a big evil inclination of women. They just say what they want, even if it's a tongue lashing they give to their husband. And a lot of men struggle with the fact that, they devote their time to learning, time to business. They lose interest in their wives. So it's very hard to work on that, to show love to your wife. That's the way to make a successful marriage. To make a successful marriage is not to appreciate the fact that he earns a living, to appreciate what the woman does in the house, because that's not what makes the person happy. The husband needs the respect. The woman needs the love, which he said many times throughout the book. So, first of all, appreciation doesn't work because of habituation and we think negatively. And second of all, that appreciation doesn't work because you have to appreciate, if he gave her the love, she wouldn't complain. If he got the respect, he wouldn't complain. That's as simple as that. So appreciating something which is not what's really the issue is, I think, the wrong advice. So I'll continue talking about this as we go through the second half of chapter 12 coming up later in the week. Hope you enjoyed today's lecture. See you in the next one.